I'm Dave Dinkle. Who controls real estate closings in North Carolina? Let's look at how attorneys decide the fate of your deal. If you're investing in North Carolina and a deal died at the closing table, it usually wasn't the property, it was the closing structure. In this video, I'll explain who actually controls real estate closings in North Carolina and why that matters for investors. If you invest in real estate in North Carolina, there's one thing you need to understand before you ever worry about funding, assignments, or exit strategies. In North Carolina, the closing agent controls the transaction, not the seller, not the buyer, not the investor, not the title company, the closing attorney. And most deals that fall apart in North Carolina don't fail because they're illegal or unethical. They fail because investors misunderstood who has authority and how decisions are actually made at the closing table. In this video, I want to explain how closings really work in North Carolina, why attorneys have so much control, and what that means for investors trying to structure wholesale deals, double closings, or same-day transactions. This isn't legal advice. This is procedural education so you understand the environment you're operating in. North Carolina is what's known as a mandatory attorney-closed state. This means that every real estate closing must be handled by a licensed North Carolina attorney. The attorney is not optional. They're not there just to sign off on paperwork. They control the escrow or trust account, the review of contracts, the approval of the closing structure, the disbursement of funds, and whether a transaction moves forward or not. Even if a title company is involved, the title company does not overrule the attorney. The attorney is the decision maker. This is very different from states where title companies or escrow officers run closings independently. To understand why attorneys have this level of control, you have to understand how North Carolina views the closing process. In North Carolina, a real estate closing is considered the practice of law. That means drafting or interpreting closing documents, handling escrow funds, explaining the legal consequences of the transaction. All of that falls under the attorney's professional responsibility. Because of that, attorneys are personally liable for improper fund disbursement, misrepresentation on settlement statements, structuring transactions they believe are misleading, participating in deals they don't fully understand. So when a North Carolina attorney says no, it's usually not about you. It's about their license, liability, and ethical obligations. This is our website, besttransactionalfunding.com. Menu tab has our contact phone number and contact email readily available. Also, you can see our proof of funds. While you're on the website, check out our Products tab, where we have available specific ebooks immediately deliverable for problems investors encounter every day. In addition, under our About tab, you notice we have investor-friendly agents listed state by state, so it saves time looking for closing agents who are investor-friendly. That's besttransactionalfunding.com, 954-274-1003. This is where many investors get tripped up. The closing attorney is not a deal facilitator in the way investors often expect. Their role is not to creatively structure transactions or help you navigate profit spreads. Their role is to ensure the transaction is legally structured, ensure funds move correctly, ensure all parties are treated properly, protect their professional responsibility. That's why language matters so much in North Carolina. If you explain a deal in a way that sounds evasive, creative, or secretive, the attorney has every reason to shut it down, even if the deal itself could technically close. This is where wholesalers and investors often run into trouble. In North Carolina, assignments are not automatically rejected. Double closings are not illegal. Same-day closings are allowed, but none of those are approved by default. Every transaction is reviewed individually by the closing attorney, and the attorney decides whether the structure is acceptable for that specific deal. Two investors can bring the same deal to two different attorneys and get two different answers. That's not inconsistency, that's discretion. This is a common misunderstanding, especially for investors coming from other states. In North Carolina, a title company may issue the title policy, perform title searches, assist with administrative tasks, but they do not control escrow, disbursement, structure approval, and if a title company says this should be fine, that doesn't matter if the attorney disagrees. The attorney's trust account, license, and liability are on the line, not the title company's. Many investors say things like, "They wouldn't tell me why. They just said they don't do those deals." They shut it down without explanation. That's normal in attorney-closed states. Attorneys are not required to educate investors, justify their decisions, or debate deal structures. If something makes them feel uncomfortable, they can decline to handle the transaction, and often they won't give a detailed explanation because doing so creates liability. Without getting into specific deal advice yet, here are common structural red flags in North Carolina. Unclear fund flow, missing end buyer, delayed resale closings, vague explanations of profit, investors using wholesaler language, mischaracterizing funding as a loan, trying to reuse funds improperly, asking for exceptions to settlement rules. Notice that none of these are about greed or legality. They're about clarity and risk. In North Carolina, how you explain the deal matters as much as the deal itself. Attorneys respond best to explanations that are calm, procedural, non-salesy, non-evasive, and for example saying, "This is structured as two separate closings scheduled for the same day," is very different from saying, "We're just flipping it real quick." Same deal, very different reaction. We'll cover exact wording in a separate video because that deserves its own deep dive. Because attorneys control escrow and disbursement, they also control whether same-day closings are allowed, whether funds can be introduced and repaid the same day, whether a structure creates ethical or disclosure concerns, and that's why some North Carolina deals qualify for same-day closings and others don't, even when investors think they're identical. It's not about loopholes. It's about whether the attorney believes the structure is clean, transparent, and defensible. If you take one thing away from this video, let it be this. In North Carolina, you're asking an attorney to approve a structure, not asking a title company to process paperwork. When you approach closings with that mindset, your explanations change, your expectations change, your success rate improves. This applies whether you're wholesaling, double closing, or using transactional funding. besttransactionalfunding.com 954-274-1003